While the Sun has proven her superiority, it is the Moon that the species of Earth sincerely like to confide in. That's why she's a major aesthetical inspiration for mankind, while the creatures of the wild instinctively howl at her mesmerizing aura, which only strengthens her mysterious nature. However, despite such spiritual adornments, the Moon, since her creation 4.5 billion years ago, has given away very little about her dark side. While NASA has seemingly given up on its plans to send humans back to the surface of the Moon anytime soon, a contractor is proposing a mission to send a crew to a stationary spot in orbit over the far side of Earth's neighbor. Lockheed Martin has begun pitching an L2 Farside mission using its Orion spacecraft under development. It is seen as an intermediate step towards more challenging missions beyond low Earth orbit. Using the latest technology, an astronaut crew would teleoperate robots on the lunar surface. Lockheed Martin says such an endeavor could sharpen skills and technologies needed for a trip to an asteroid, as well as showcase techniques useful for exploring Mars by teleoperation as astronauts orbit the red planet. Both are stated goals under the new direction for NASA outlined by the former President Obama. In February 2010, the White House issued its proposed NASA budget that aced out former President George W. Bush's Constellation program. That plan had benchmarked 2020 as the date to replant the feet of US astronauts on the Moon after the last set of moonwalkers departed the landscape back in 1972. Instead,